Hi, careerists. It's Kimberly Robb Baker of thislittle.brand.com, and I'd like to continue our conversation that I started on Tuesday with Tactical Tuesday, talking about how manifesting requires taking action. And I would like to pair that idea with the idea that there is grace. Now, moving into this conversation about grace, I want to be very clear that you need not believe in God or a higher power or even the universe. Like, there's no particular system of belief you have to ascribe to believe in grace. Because I'm going to make some spiritual references here. But the way that it works is that even if there is no greater source, greater intelligence behind the world and how it works. You know that 90% of your brain that people are always saying that you don't use, it's not just sitting there like a fatty blob in your head. Your brain is at work all the time, validating your beliefs and setting up circumstances that will affirm your beliefs. So if you believe in grace, if you expect grace, then your brain will be looking for affirmation that the world is graceful. And so that's what I want to share, just so that if you don't have a particular belief system, or if your belief system is that there is no greater intelligence, that this absolutely works, because there's you and there's your brain. Now, I bring up the idea of grace, and I was thinking about it because after I made my video and then I made my amendment, because I was thinking about ableism. I was thinking about ableism because manifest implies it actually, Manny, of course we talked about, is doing something with your hand, right? Making something with your hand. Manny Petty. And I mentioned that to manifest, it's not enough to just visualize something happening. You have to take an action towards that. And sometimes our actions just aren't enough, right? Sometimes the odds really are against us and actions aren't enough, or it's very hard for us to take action. We could be like, if you can take it to the extreme, we might even be in a coma, right? And it's very hard for us to take action, at least in a way that we recognize as action in our pedestrian view of the world. But there is grace. There absolutely is grace. And that concept is present in the various religions. I was raised as a Lutheran, and I think of the Lord's Prayer, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name," and etc. And then it's like, give us this day our daily bread. It's not saying I will work for such and such an hour to earn my bread, just because you are my Father, just because this entity cares about me. I'm going to get my daily bread. I'm going to be cared for. And even in Islam, which is what I follow now as an adult, in Islam, before you do anything, you kind of say that you're doing it in the name of God. In the name of God. And how you call God is the most gracious and the most merciful. So no matter what you're doing, you give that, Bismillahi ar-Rahmani Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, most merciful. And we're reminded constantly of grace. So even when things seem hopeless, and even if you're in a literal or metaphorical coma, you're somehow incapacitated, or you're working your tail off like Sisyphus pushing that rock and it just seems to not be getting anywhere, having faith that there's grace, and that whatever you're able to do, and even if you're able to do nothing, that that you will be taken care of. You will get your metaphorical daily bread just because you exist. You don't have to earn the right to exist. You have that right. You're here on this planet because you're supposed to be. And if you're here, then there are resources for you. So that's our Thought Experiment Thursday. Try that thought on. What does it feel like to think that the world is full of grace and that you deserve that grace just by existing. Because you do.